Hello, 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 hello. I realized I didn't do a musings last week, and I don't know what happened. We had foundation over the weekend, and I got that my head was already on foundation, and I kind of realized it on like Thursday or Friday. I was like, oh, I don't even think I did a live this week. Whoops. That's okay. Sometimes we miss a week, and that's kind of how life goes. But actually, from that foundation, a lot of like awarenesses have come up, and a lot of just looking at the energy of business has popped a lot. And I actually wanted to talk a little bit about that in here today, and kind of to see where this conversation takes us. And I actually have a Business Done Different class coming up at the beginning of December. I think it starts December 2nd. And I have to think about how we're doing this. I think we're doing it over 4 days, like 4 hours a day-ish, kind of wherever that takes us. And this is my first Business Done Different class I'm facilitating, and I'm really, really excited because business is one of the things that has lit me up in a way that I never, ever imagined it would, and something that I really thought was for everybody else. And since kind of getting into the true joy of business and like playing in various like little business things we've done, where the like starting from scratch and creating from chaos, and like some like the little like short business things, I've just gotten how much I really have a capacity with business, and I love playing in the energy of business. And I also get that the way that I do business is so different from the way most of the world functions. And that's why I made it wrong. And that's why I, for so long, thought that I didn't have a capacity with business, because I looked to the way that this reality functioned in business and thought, I don't know how to do that. I don't get that. I can't be that. And the reality of it is all of that was true. And there is something so different possible and available with business, that when I stopped trying to fit into the limitations of this reality, that something so much greater became available. So what I wanted to talk to you today is about oatmeal. And I know that's a strange space to start talking about business, but it's something that came up over the weekend, and I had a lot of charge on it. I was really mad about it for a minute or two, so I feel like I can finally step back from a little bit and laugh. But it started on this conversation about oatmeal, and you're like, what are you talking about, Melissa? We're talking about business, now we're talking about oatmeal. And no, I'm not talking about the sales of oatmeal or anything about this. So we were at a hotel that I did this foundation at over the weekend, and I swore that the lady told me, like the salesperson told me, either when I was doing my like setting up or when I was doing the sales, somewhere in there, I swore that she said, oh, and help yourself to whatever breakfast is available. And I've worked at other like hotels in the same chain where it has been the case, where they have been very like, oh, help yourself to the coffee, the food, whatever, you're here, you're our guest, you're kind of VIP, like you're hosting an event here, people are here because of you. And I must have mistaken. I don't actually know. But what I know is that the last day of class, I hadn't eaten anything there up to that point. And the last day of class, I was like, man, I'm hungry. I'm just going to make myself a little bowl of oatmeal with my coffee. And somebody at the counter was like, oh, what room are you in? I was like, oh, I'm actually in the conference room here. And they were like, okay. Didn't think anything of it. And the lady, like the sales lady, comes chasing me down, and she's like, they told me that you said that the oatmeal was included and it is not. And I was like, oh, I'm super sorry. And I was like, I must have mistaken. I thought you said that. And she's like, no, that is not part of the deal. That is not something we discussed, and was very harsh and was very unkind. And I was very like, it's not a big deal. I'll happily pay for it. I was just mistaken. But the energy of where she came at it with was such a turnoff. And I was like, man, I've been doing this, this foundation. I have an event here that I've been doing for 4 days, and we're going to nickel and dime over oatmeal, which was $7. Which I just think is really funny. It was like a little thing of oatmeal, and I was happy to pay the stupid $7, but it was so funny because I was like, man, it was so important to her that she get the $7 for the oatmeal instead of having an energy of commerce. And it was more important for her to make me wrong and to like create this like thing where like I like this accusation that I was somehow trying to steal from her or steal from the hotel or whatever that was, rather than there was such a different way to approach it. And I looked at this a lot, like with, you know, a couple of friends who were there with me, and I was like, what was that? That was such a charge. I was like, it wasn't about the money. Like, that was definitely not it. But it was from this energy of her needing to make me wrong and this like nickel and dime defensiveness. It just had a really icky energy to it. And I was like, man, I will never book with this hotel again. I'll never do another event here over $7. And it had so little to do with the money and so much more about the commerce and the lack thereof and the lack of regard and kindness and everything that like came with it. Where had she been like, hey, you know, I'm so sorry if you thought that was included. It's actually not like included in the deal. You know, if you just wouldn't mind paying for it, it would have been fine. And I would have been like, oh man, I'm super sorry. And like, and that would have been the whole thing. But because she came at it with such like this like attack energy, it just created something very different. And it led me to just look at like how people in this reality are functioning with business, and where in my world I don't have that, and where instead it's this energy of commerce and kindness and gratitude. And an example I've given a lot, but it is my favorite like company up to this point that I've worked with, is the Mercedes dealership that I take my car to. And I have an old Mercedes. It is not like this new thing. And for a long time, I really felt like I had to justify that. And now I'm just laughing about it because I'm probably going to buy a new one soon. But I don't have some like, I'm not pulling up in an $80,000 car, I guess is my point. It's like this old SUV Mercedes that I bought from like a discount, I don't even know, like, what is that called? Like, outlet, basically. Luxury car outlet is where I bought this. So, and they know it. It was like on my license plate, you know, they give you like the license plate thing. And one day I took it in and they actually just, without saying anything, just gave me a new license plate thing that was actually like Mercedes-Benz of St. Charles is the town. Like, so that if I didn't want the luxury car outlet thing on my thing anymore, I could actually change it. And it was such a nobody said anything to me about it. They just left it in my car. And I was like, wow, how sweet. They didn't want to embarrass me or make me feel anything negative, but they said, hey, if you want to have something different, here's an option. And every time I go into this car dealership, and I'm going on Friday, they have this amazing energy of like, they greet me right away. They're unbelievably kind. They know my name. They take my keys from me, tell me whatever it is they're going to do. They give me a loaner car, which is the most up-to-date, most beautiful car that I just use until they're done. Even if it's only an hour or if it's a day, and even if they only needed it for an hour and I can't get back there until the next day, they're happy to let me keep the loaner until the next day, free of charge. And there's been times where I was in such a hurry because I like don't have a lot of downtime, where I was like, you know, they were like, hey, your car is done. I'm like, all right, I literally have 5 minutes. Like, can it be ready? And me being the demand of me is like, hey, I only have 5 minutes. Can you like actually have this ready for me? Like, I'm stressed out about time. And I kid you not, I get up there, the guy is standing there with my car keys. One time I had a whole car full of groceries because I like was in such a hurry and totally forgotten that I had gotten groceries. The people like from the dealership came, transferred groceries from the rental car back to my car, handed me my keys, and I was back on the road still in under 5 minutes. And I always look at the energy of how they treat me and like why I keep coming back to that dealership, and why I don't know that I am like willing to buy another brand of car at this point, because of how well they treat me. And it is that energy of making the client feel like $1 million. And after this experience with oatmeal on Monday, we went out to lunch afterwards, and I was asking for a very different energy at that point because I still had a lot of charge on this whole thing. And we went out to this beautiful restaurant where the waiter was fantastic. He had no point of view about giving me 3 different wine samples because I didn't know what I wanted. And when I was like, oh, I'm sorry, can I get this instead? I was like super apologetic. He's like, what are you sorry for? Absolutely, anything you need. And there was no like fake in it. There was no annoyance, or it was just total allowance, total space, and kindness. And I've looked in different business situations everywhere that I've seen that. And one of the spaces that I see it dynamically is within the access consciousness business is a space of kindness and caring. And even if like you ask a question and you're like, hey, is this allowed? You'll generally get an email back that's like, if they're like, yeah, no, you actually can't do that. But it's never from a like punitive space or a negative space. It's usually like, no, sorry, like, you know, this is the rule around that, but you know, like East Showing Glory, whatever. But it's always from a space of like caring and kindness. And something that pops into my mind a lot is when we were at Global Foundation in Mexico, whenever that was, May, they had a lot of concierge, they call them in Access Consciousness, if you've been to a live class, where it's really that person's job just to make sure that like you have everything you need. If you need your bars run, you get your bars run. If you don't know people or you have questions or where are the bathrooms, or hey, I'm kind of freaking out over here, can you help me? Like who will direct you like where to somebody who can help basically. And there is a kindness in it. And there was a number of people who were being that energy of just kindness and caring. And there was one lady in particular that I had only seen online that I didn't know personally that just had this energy of kindness and caring and true commerce. I actually sent her an email afterwards just to thank her for being, because it was the way that they make you feel. And so I look at that a lot when it comes to business and when it comes to having relationships with people and the energy of commerce, which is really this like simultaneity of gifting and receiving and true like connection with people and caring for people and being in communion. And it's so much about how you make people feel. And I've looked at like where businesses are successful and where businesses are not, where businesses will thrive, where businesses will sort of dig themselves into the ground, and like where the differences are there. And there's a lot of different parts and pieces to how businesses run. But one of the things that I see over and over and over again is how you make other people feel is what actually creates greater, what creates for your business, what creates money, what creates revenue, what creates more. And so much of like the businesses that do well are creating this like word of mouth where somebody has this amazing, outstanding experience and they tell their friends and they tell their family and they say, hey, I had this amazing, outstanding experience, like, and will recommend going to that person, that place, that I have a friend who just bought a house, I don't know, a year or two ago and loves his realtor. And whenever anybody talks about getting a house somewhere near him, he will say, like, if you need a realtor, I have got your girl. Like, this chick went above and beyond. And she just called, so I guess it was a year ago because he was just saying that. And she just called to say, hey, happy year anniversary since you bought your house. How are you loving it? How are you doing with it? But again, that energy of commerce, of making a phone call to say, like, hey, it's been a year. How are you doing? And he was like, yeah, I'm well aware that part of her doing that is so that I'll give recommendations to her and I'll, continue to have her in my world and my thoughts. But again, it isn't coming from an energy of like obligation or fake or like a phony thing. It's very much from the energy of like genuineness, like genuine caring of like, hey, how is the house? Is it working for you? Are you having fun? Did it create everything you were hoping it would create? But it's that space of truly caring about people. And so anywhere that you've equated business with cold, uptight, I always thought of like men in business coats on like Wall Street, like a very, what is the word I'm looking for? Like stiff, there we go. Like very not human, like just stiff, like robot kind of energies. And so you're like, oh, I don't do business because that's what business looks like. Can we destroy it and create that? Yeah, right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And what if business wasn't about being fake or phony, where a lot of people like equate that? I actually just had a client in here a minute ago before I jumped on who was talking about like maybe she'd like to get into real estate at some point, but she didn't like the sort of phony, like salesy energy to it. And I said, well, what if that's not how you do real estate? Like, what if that's not your reality with it? What if just because of what you have bought as like what the persona, or the image is the better word, the like image of like somebody who's doing real estate is, like what if that actually doesn't have to be your reality with it? What if you could be you and have the true caring and kindness for people and also get them a great house, and it would be fun for you if you did it your way and not the way that this reality says you have to do it. And that's true of any business, anything that you've looked at and been like, oh, this is what I have to be if I'm that, instead of having your reality with it, instead of you getting to actually be you and the true kindness and caring that you really be, and like having communion with people. Anywhere that you have decided what like business has to look like for you, or what you have to be, the image that you have to put on of yourself in business, you create a limitation, because then that's all that can get created. And then anywhere that you're trying to not be you, you actually take yourself out of being. And when you're not being, you're way less likely to be successful, but you're also not having any fun. And money follows joy. So when you're willing to have joy with business and be the true energy of like true commerce and true connection and true communion with people, with the business, with the earth, with like the energies of whatever it is your product is, whatever that might be, when you're willing to actually be all of those things, then that's actually what gets created, and it creates this greater reality and brings the joy that is business for you, so that you can be successful, you can have fun with it, you can make money with it, and it creates greater for everybody. And it also creates an invitation to everybody else looking at what you're creating, that they can actually create their reality with business, that they can create what works for them. And then we have a whole lot more happy people making money on the planet, which is certainly my target. So where for you have you decided that you can't be it or do it or have your reality with business? And everything that is, will you destroy it and create it? Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And when you start to look at business and look at like what you'd really like to have, start to look at what you'd really like to have in the world. You know, I think I called this something the effect of like business commerce and what you'd like to create in the world. And it might be like, oh, I'd like the world to have this product that I'm really passionate about, that I really love, that's really important to me. And so that's like your motivation for business. And that's amazing. And it might be something else. It might be an energy you'd like to create in the world of like true oneness and communion and having each other's back. You know, one of the things I love to see is when people post like, hey, it's like brag about your business, whatever, Friday, or, you know, people post different things, or like small business, whatever. And we'll invite other people to like put their business URL in there or whatever, to like promote each other, because there is sort of this energy of like, when you come out of competition and you're willing to actually like be like, hey, my amazing friend does this thing, and I do this thing, and my other friend does this thing, and I know this amazing person who does this over here, and nobody's in competition with anybody else, and nobody's trying to like prove that their product is like the better product, but instead like there is a true gifting and receiving and like all like lifting each other up and like promoting each other's stuff, but in a way of like, hey, I took this amazing class with this person. Like if you're looking for this particular class, like this might be a person that could contribute to you, rather than like anywhere that you go into like competition or like trying to be like the one who has it greater. I don't know if that totally makes sense, but like anywhere that we can actually like contribute to one another, like those are the energies that I'm asking for in the world. And what if business could be a way to actually create more of the energies you're asking in the world, more joy, more play, and like more ease with things, where like anywhere that you've kind of watched people do limitation, or watch people sort of do I can't, or lack in self-confidence, or feel like they're not good enough. And like, what if you having your reality with business, whatever that might be, actually is an invitation for all of those people to ask for something else and create greater, if that's truly what they'd like to have, so that there's way more people on the planet having way more fun and joy and ease in all spaces. And it's so interesting because it's like this, sometimes business feels like this, like one little topic over here, except that it like expands to everything, because every day, everything that we're doing is business. Your business is your life and your life is your business. So you walk into a store and somebody's like, hey, how are you? It's great to see you. Can I help you with anything? And not from a space of trying to sell you something. And there's a different energy there, but from a space of like, hey, like, what can I help you find? And like true communion and kindness that can change your whole day. Having somebody like actually see you and care for you and be willing to talk with you and all of those things is a totally different energy too than if you walk into a store and somebody's like, what about this? And you should buy this, and this is on sale, and have you tried this? Where it's very pushy. I had that experience in an airport actually not that long ago. I was like trying to buy a shirt, and it was like this one, and I walked out of the store, the energy was so pushy. So like seeing those differences, but like it's so simple, but like how that one business and the way that that one person is with business can create your whole day, can create your life. And so like anywhere that you've decided that like one interaction with somebody doesn't actually create ripples out, can you just try and create that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And what if you were willing to know that like every interaction that you have in the world is actually creating your business, which is actually creating your life, which is creating the energy of what you'd actually like to be and see in the world. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I'm wondering, like, I get that up to this Business Done Different class, there may be a few musings around business, and it's very much like this weekend was such a topic in my world. Not that it isn't always, but it was just like this glaring example of what not to do. And it definitely created something for me of like, wow, like that's never the energy that I'd like to create in the world. So what are the energies that I'd like to create? And what are the energies that I'd like to receive? And what if we can be the simultaneity of receiving and gifting from business, from creation, from living in such a different way than what most of the world is choosing? And what if we can be the invitation for something so different? So I think that's all on all of this today. But if there's topics, as I started to say, as I squirrel, as I do, if there's topics popping around business, if you have questions about business, if there's stuff just like you'd like to start a business but you don't know where to start, like anything like that, let me know. You can post it right here in my CF page, or send me a private message, or reach out, because I'd love to talk about some of these things up to the point of the Business Done Different class. And if you're really asking for a different reality with business, with money, with finance, with creation, and like actually like showing up in your life, I would absolutely invite you to join me in this Business Done Different class. I get that it's every class I take, every class that I facilitate creates something different and creates sort of like this greater energy. And I get that this class is going to be something really different, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I would love to have you join me. And I think that's all. So I will see you guys next week. I will try to actually be in here on Wednesday to do a musings and not forget. And yeah, what else is possible now? Bye.